In your book club assignment, one of the things that you might be asked to do is to use a Venn diagram to compare and contrast something. You might be asked to compare and contrast characters or compare and contrast other things in your book. So I wanted to make sure that we all knew what a Venn diagram is. A Venn diagram is a way that we organize our thoughts when we're trying to show similarities and differences. So remember, similarities are things that are the same, and differences are things that are different. When you say compare and contrast, compare is when you're talking about the things that are similar, and contrast is when you're talking about things that are different. So if I want to compare two things, a Venn diagram is a pretty cool way to do that in a graphic organizer. So I have these two circles. You don't have to print off a paper. You can just do it in your notebook and show it to me that way, or you can do it on Google Drive. But the easiest way is just to get a piece of paper and draw two circles that have a nice overlapping area here, because you've got the things that apply to one character on this side, you've got the things that apply to the other character on this side, and then the things in the middle are things that both characters have in common. Alright, so if we're comparing two characters, right now we might pick Drew and the Titan, because that's the book that we're reading right now as I do this for you. So I think about what are some things that I know about Drew. One thing I know about Drew is that he is a middle school student. So I write that he's a middle schooler. The Titan is most definitely not a middle schooler. He is a middle-aged man. Another thing that I might know is that Drew is a boy and the Titan is a boy. So I could put in the middle that they're both boys. Another thing that they have in common is that they both have special powers. Their special powers, though, aren't the same. So on Drew's side, I can say that he has super senses. And on the Titan side, I can say that he has super strength. Please notice that in the one that says both, I'm not going to write that they both live in Justicia. I'm not going to write that they're both characters in the book Sidekicked. Those are things that are sort of implied because they're in this story. Okay, so maybe over here I remember about Drew's family, and he has a happy life, and he lives with both of his parents. Remember that the Titan was given up by his parents, and then the adoptive parents that took care of him and loved him died. Okay? We might say that Drew obeys the superhero code, and we could say that the Titan ignores the hero code. Both of them have been in battles. With supervillains. Both of them have to hide their identity. So that is how you do a Venn diagram. You want to go back and forth and be specific about the things that you write. Sometimes after you're finished with the Venn diagram, I might ask you to use that information to write a paragraph. So if I was going to use that information to write a paragraph, I might say that Drew and the Titan are both characters in Sidekicked. Drew is a middle schooler who has the power of super senses. The Titan also has super senses, has superpowers, but his superpower is super strength. And that's how I might start it. But in your assignments for book club, usually I just ask you to either compare and contrast or use a Venn diagram to compare and contrast. So you can use a Venn diagram for a variety of things. You can always choose to use a Venn diagram, even if that's not what I've asked you to do. If I've just said compare and contrast, you can go ahead and do a Venn diagram if you'd like, or you can do a T-chart where you have one on one side and one on the other, and you list. That's a nice way to do it because then it's organized and it makes sense and you can find your answers easily. Or if you want to just make a list where you write about both of them, you can. And you can just make your list like that. Okay, so those are your options for comparing and contrasting. But anytime I ask for a Venn diagram, this is what I would need you to do.